Hello everyone, away mother's child, and welcome to Raven Tales, with your host and narrator, Raven Sun. This is the IEG Series, Chapter 1 and Prologue, Part 2. Please like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Insta and Facebook, link in the description, if you haven't already. And I'll see you at the end of Part 2. Enjoy. I, Zaven, Emperor of the Gods. Book 1, Part 1. Part 1. Happenings, Part 1. Chapter 1. Beginnings. It has been 2 weeks now since I've turned 16, and every night the same dream repeats. At first, I dismissed the dream as being another nightmare, but as the nights passed, the dreams not only remained but became more vivid. The sight of burning buildings and smoke-filled skies burnt into my retinas, along with the woeful cries of damned nobodies that echoed in my waking hours. I knew, by the third night, something was amiss. For at the stroke of 10, I would fall to slumber, no matter the activity. I remember confronting my parents and the internet about my mysterious case. But when the doctors, both the one I visited and those on the web, could not help me, I tried would-be remedies and practices to help my body remain awake, only to have my efforts be in vain. I began to dread the night and the hour of my slumber to come, where I would be whisked away into a strange hell that even Hades would run away from. I know this because I am now in this hellish nightmare. So vivid has this dream become that nearly all my senses have followed me here. The smell of burning flora filled my nostrils, and the heat from a nearby fire began cooking my skin. I stand myself up quickly from where I lay and ventured into the smoke, as I do in every dream. Blindness and haze follows briefly until I find myself on an oceanless beach. It is there where I behold the sight of horror, the scene which has been burnt into my mind. The mother city, Cape Town, was on fire. Smoke covered me once more before I set foot in the fallen city. Sections of skyscrapers being supported only by a few concrete columns and shambles of steel mesh, like giant skeletons overlooking a mass grave. Abandoned vehicles littered throughout the streets, most filled with corpses and charred remains. The cries for the deceased and of the survivors echoed all around me. I struggled to block my ears from their woes and pleas of false hope. I would shout commands, but my voice remained in the conscious reality, rendering me mute as the smoke once again consumed me. I feel something around my neck. A hand? What is this? This has never happened in the dream before. I can't breathe. Who is this? Who's trying to kill me? The smoke cleared once more, revealing a large shadowy figure with its hands
wrapped around my neck. Even though I was being strangled, the look of the figure seemed rather peculiar. That it wasn't a shadow, but rather a dark and murky silhouette of someone or something. However, one thing that did catch my eye were the figures wrapped in murky tendrils. In line with mine were a chimera set of green and purple eyes. The pupil and the right resembling rings that crossed each other perpendicularly, whereas the left had a pupil that had a horizontal almond-shaped center, its poles thinly arcing outwards inverse to one another in the opposite direction, ending in a circular bulbous shape. Bizarre as it was, the pair of eyes had a mystifying presence to them as they were looking into my soul. Its grip was growing tighter. It's looking at me. It's moving forward. Where is it taking me? Where am I going? Wait! I feel it beneath me. He's listening. His grip. My body is growing limp. His grip is growing looser. I'm falling. I see sheer cliffs. Mountain. I'm falling off Table Mountain. I'm looking up at the mountain's edge. I see the figure looking back down at me. Its eyes still piercing me. As I'm falling through the glowing smoke, however, the eyes become ever more vivid. The smoke clears and the heat fades. The cries cease and the dark figure vanishes. The world turns black until only the eyes remain. They drew closer to me as I remained in limbo, its gaze staring deep within me. It was strange. Instead of being frightened by it, it was more a neutral exchange, as if acknowledging its presence and it mine. Suddenly, like a fractured screen, the image of the eyes cracked before me, its contours and form distorted by the cracks. A suspenseful silence followed, before hearing the most earth-shattering roar, which, dare I say, even rattled the very limbo I was in. It was powerful, so powerful, in fact, that it blew the shattered pieces of limbo towards me with such force that it took me along with those pieces. I felt myself being thrown back into my body, as if physically being shoved back into reality. Immediately, I shot up from where I laid, my body drenched in sweat, making my bedding and bothersome strands of long hair stick to my skin. I checked myself, slapping my face, pinching my arm, looking at my surroundings, all to make sure I was back in the real world. I let out a deep sigh of relief, my body still quivering from the memory of the dream. I couldn't think. My mind was a mess, full of questions and emotion. I gripped my head, trying to find focus again. Then I remembered a method my mother taught me. She taught me to remember something interesting about myself and to focus on that until it was my only thought. My eyes turned to my hair, which canopied around my arms and folded over my fingers. It was then I remembered, ever since I was 4 years old, my hair made me a question mark to the medical community. Why? Why did it? Ah yes, it was special because of its regenerative properties and aerodynamic structure. I remember the test they did on it, how they would cut my hair to different lengths, only to have it grow to the same length, which was to my calves, in a matter of hours. I remember how they would wet it and be amazed that after 10 seconds it would be completely dry. How they gawped and murmured when they found out my hair produced an oil that acted as an antibacterial moisturizer and conditioner, turning into a slime when any manufactured shampoo or conditioner was applied. I remember, while in the testing facility, hearing names and words like Rand's University, University of the West, medical scientist, research, and breakthrough. To think how it become such a hot topic at such a tender age. Boy from the city of Port Elizabeth. I don't remember when, but I do remember that their research shut down for some reason. I think it was to do with imposing on my lifestyle. I can't remember. Before I knew it, the thought had become the only one, and I looked up and found myself in my room, amidst the morning silence. I sat for a bit, taking in the moment before crawling over to my curtain that hung next to my bed and pulling it open. Through the square patterned burglar bars, I saw my neighbor's high wall, and past it, the twilight sky. I tucked my hair behind my ears, which was when I began to wonder what the time was. I turned around to face my dimly lit room and saw my small crystal display daytime panel watch on my desk in the corner of my room. It was glowing the day's name, as well as the date and time, its radio feature set to mute. To get a closer look, I lightly bounced to the edge of my bed and swung my legs off, the chilled wooden floor meeting the soles of my feet, sending a brief shiver up my spine. Strands of hair followed behind me as I slowly rose from my bedside and walked over with a slight hunch to my desk. As I walked, I stretched my arms and reached for the panel. Its light stung my morning sensitive eyes, the pain clearing after a few blinks before I read what it displayed, which was Friday 13th January 2040, 0400. Unbelievable to think that even after such a nightmare, and even finding my mind again, I would be able to wake up in time for my morning run. I reached for a black rubber band on my desk and tied my hair into a ponytail while I headed for my room light switch, which was next to my bedroom door. With the flick of the switch, my room brightened up, overwhelming my eyes briefly. Once my eyes had sufficiently adjusted to the brightness, I gazed at my room briefly, noting my bed in the far corner and my desk facing the opposite wall, with my wardrobe next to the door. Upon gazing, my eyes then fell on a pile of clothes that sat at the end of my bed, which made me sigh, knowing my running shorts were inside of it. Knowing this, I walked over and crouched in front of the pile, stretching out my hands into the damp mess of forgetfulness and irresponsibility.
I chuckled in self-disdain as the smell of mature body odor filled my nose, the amalgamation of rotting sweat and dead skin cells varying in intensity the deeper I went. I cursed myself at my tendency to forsake my clothes to this foul pile of moist and smelly mess. Turning my head as I reached deeper, the smell too much to bear. It was then that I saw it.
A balled up black shorts in the corner where the wardrobe and the wall met. I smiled in humiliation as I reached for the ball, shaking my head at my futile effort. At least now I'll remember to do my laundry. However, even though I found my running pants, it too was damp and odor-ridden. I gritted my teeth in irritation that these were the only pants available to me, as my others were either torn or too small. After swearing a teenage oath that I will wash these clothes later and do well in school to earn good money, did I then strip from my sleeping briefs and pull the damp pants up my legs. After the pants rested coldly on my groin, curses yet again left my mouth. I opened the wardrobe to find a running shirt, a pair of socks, and my running shoes, and once all were fitted on, I quietly and cautiously started for the front door, walking in a way that I would press my feet into the floor to absorb the sounds of my steps. I did this until I reached the front door, where I slowly turned its handle. A few clinks and clanks escaped my efforts, but the door unhitched and opened. My heart pounded with excitement. At the hour of 4:15, the untainted air of the new day rushed into my nostrils, the birds perching in the neighboring trees and canopies of the pines, which dotted scarcely on the side of my street, Willard Road, chirping sweet morning melodies. I smiled as I walked into the new day, the crisp and cool air biting at my bare skin and wide eyes, as if christening me with new life. I made my way through the doorway, past the threshold of the security gate, and down the 3-step tiled patio, onto the glistening dew-ridden grass, continuing for the old gate, the dew dampening the back of my calves, shoes and socks. On the way, I noted the garage and its structure, as I do every run, its westward-facing entrance and wide design blocking the old front gate from view, only leaving enough space for a person to fit between its wall and the gate itself. I then turned to my side to see the new gate that stood on the adjacent corner of the front yard, and giggled as I remembered the reason my parents kept the old gate. It was a prank my father and mother both decided on for new guests, which worked every time. Shaking my head at my parents' humor, I found myself close enough to the gate to see it around the corner of the garage, my mind now gearing for the run to come. I jumped suddenly, however, as the door opened behind me, turning around abruptly when I heard it. When I faced the door, I saw a woman standing in the doorway, covered by shadow. The woman called out to me, and my shoulders relaxed while breathing a sigh of relief after realizing who the woman was, as she greeted with a soft and gentle, "Good morning, sweetie." I felt my heart warm up and my body become at peace. I smiled and returned the greeting, saying, "Good morning, Mom." She gave a warm smile, one only a mother can give, as she crossed her arms around her ample bosom, trying to fight off the cold in her tight purple silk pajamas, her copper skin belly showing as her pajamas pulled up. She had a youthful appearance, despite being in her late 40s, with tufts of hair that still stood on her right, still longing for the pillow it laid on, and concealing some of her facial features. She then rubbed her eyes and asked, "Are you going for a run?" I nodded and said, "Yes, I am, Mom." She, although sensitive to the cold, stepped further out of the doorway, even past the security gate, standing on the patio, exposing herself to the chilled morning air, showing nothing but compassion on her face, one of the powers of a mother that loves her children. As she walked from the shadows, she combed her vein-nested hands through the right side of her hair, fixing it before crossing her arms into her bosom again, her hourglass figure being made clear by the morning light. We both smiled at one another before she said, "Take care, enjoy your run." I nodded, acknowledging my mother's wish, and replied saying, "I will, Mom." Raising my hand, I bid my mother farewell, and kept it raised, even when I lightly jogged for the gate. Before I turned the corner of the garage, I looked over my shoulder for a moment, and saw my mother turn and depart back into the house, as she would start preparing lunches for the day. Even in the age of 2040, my mother still practiced such conservative behaviors, like her mother before her, even though my father has offered that he do the lunches in the morning instead of her. However, she insists that she be the one to do it, and said that it made her happy to make the family lunches for the day. I will never forget the one time I told my mother I didn't like one of the sandwiches she made. It was the only time my father came after me with a belt, beating me for what I had said, yelling how I disrespected my mother. I resented him for a few weeks after that, but stopped when one morning, while going to the bathroom to use the toilet, I heard a commotion in the kitchen. When I went to look down the hallway that leads to the kitchen, it was my mother preparing lunches for the day, but she did it earlier than usual. I could only see the counter where the lunches were being made, and saw she made the same lunches she usually made for us. However, it was the first time I have seen her prepare lunch. How she smiled and delicately placed each slice into its box. It was like looking at a master at work. But what brought me to tears was when I heard the tune she hummed. The tune from My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean. It was a tune passed down in her family, and a tune that was sung to my siblings and I when we were small. Remembering how I ran with open arms, with tears of regret burning down my cheek, hugging her from behind and making both of us drop to our knees, planting my face in her lap crying, made some emotions from that day return to me as I felt my eyes swell slightly. I remember how she went from hum to song as she stroked my head, reassuring me that everything was okay. It was a lesson I took to heart, one that taught me
one should always be grateful for the gifts one receives, for one does not see the love nor thought placed in that gift. I found myself shedding a tear as I closed the old gate behind me, wiping my eyes clear when I turned to face the outside. I looked at the old Mimosopsera tree, which still managed to bear fruit despite its age, with its large branches and tall structure acting as a shelter and great source of food for the morning congregation of birds that hid in its branches, their chirps pecking slightly at my ears. The bare road came to view, and anticipation began to well within me, my heart pounding as I made my way across the road, looking in the direction I would soon head. It was subtle, but past the chirping of the birds, the sounds of humming tires and switching gears from a group of cyclists could be heard in the distance, which signaled my cue to crouch into a sprinter's starting position. Wait. The humming grew louder, and the chatter from the cyclists became audible, but still unclear. Wait. I raised my rested knee off the ground and began to wind up. Wait. The chains of the bicycles could be heard meshing against their sprockets, and their conversation could be clearly made out, along with the loud humming of their tires. Now! It was spontaneous. One could even say explosive, as the power behind my legs shot me forward with a great leap before speeding off up the road with a massive grin on my face and bright eyes filled with the hope for what the day will bring.